All right.
30
Ready?
in a row. 30 in a row. We get to talk about another Alabama linebacker. This time, is he going to go UDFA or is he going to be a first-round pick?
That's true. Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. Max Chadwick alongside Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons. So we did offense. Now here are the defensive players to know in the 2023 NFL draft. Before we start the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Follow our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boom or Bust Draft, or on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. And check out the merch store. So we're going to go around the room. Basically, we did last time. We're going to give each a prospect of each position that we like so far. So let's start with this defensive tackle class, which I think is going to be an all-time defensive tackle.
Generational. It's generational.
It's awesome. And Donnie, there is one guy at the top that could be a generational talent too.
Yeah. So we had two defensive tackles from Georgia last year, Devontae Wyatt and that other person who went. That other guy,
Jordan Davis.
that guy. We had two last year, and this guy is probably better than both of them, even as of right now. And he still has to play a third year, and that's Jalen Carter from Georgia. Just when you watch him play, he looks like Quinnen Williams. Like he really does. He just looks insanely athletic, insanely quick. He has great strength, great pass rusher. I'd argue he was the best pass rusher on that entire defensive line. Mm-hmm. I would argue he was better than Trayvon Walker as a pass rusher, better than Wyatt, easily better than Davis. Who was the other ones? I mean, Adam Anderson, but when he was on the field, he was good, but let's not talk about him. But Jalen Carter is really, really good. And his athleticism speaks for itself. The tape speaks for itself. I would argue he was probably the second best player on that defense last year behind Nakobe Dean. Mm-hmm. I think Nakobe Dean was the best, and then Lewis Dean and Jalen Carter were both like those other guys that were like very top tier elite. So Jalen Carter is a guy to definitely watch out for. Hopefully, not for a 30 in a row, because I've noticed a trend with defensive tackle class over the last few years. The consensus number one just kind of fell out of nowhere. Just fell. Like during the season, Marvin Wilson in 2020, and then last year it was DeMarvin Leal. But I think Jalen Carter, as of right now, is better than both of them when they were getting all that hype. Yeah. I think Jalen Carter could be a top 5 pick at defensive tackle. Like, that's how good he is. Like, he is Quinnen Williams. Like, I think the best defensive tackle prospect I've ever seen, and I've been doing the draft since about 2016, 2017. It's Quinnen Williams, but he's right behind him, and he could pass him as a prospect. Like, that's just how good he is. And now he gets the full opportunity to play every single down because he doesn't have to keep rotating with Wyatt and Davis. So we'll see how he does, but be on the lookout for him.
Yeah, I had Fletcher Cox as a comp for him. I think he could be a superstar in the NFL. Like, he could be the best defensive player in the class, which I know is a hot take for some people with another guy we'll get into in a little bit. But Jalen Carter is special, man. I'm a big fan.
Yep, could certainly see it happening potentially. Let's talk about Brian Bresee from Clemson, who was a 5-star recruit. Was one of the top recruits in the country coming out of the Washington, D.C. area, and has been at Clemson now for 3 years. Comes off of a torn ACL last year, which is a little disappointing because he's going to be in this tier of players that I'm going to call first-round pedigree, but I haven't seen enough of yet. Which I think Kayshon Boutte kind of fit into in the last video for me, where I think, very clearly the flashes on his film are awesome. But there are just question marks for me. And I'm a little worried about Bresee because although I think he's an excellent player, I think that he hasn't played enough yet because he's injured relatively early last year. And I think there's some nuance to his game, kind of like Boutte, that I think needs to be developed. His flashes to me are like Jonathan Allen-esque, and he has that kind of body type. He's around the 6'4", 295. I'm going to list guys a little smaller than they're listed on their website, so that's where I'm going to have him listed. I think he could probably add some weight, and he's clearly got the athleticism. He's got kind of the shoulder hump move that Allen has as well, where he can get inside of a interior offensive lineman and kind of knock them backwards and then swim inside to get downfield. Really good at penetrating and getting upfield right now. Like, that is something that he does well, better than anyone else. In terms of kind of playing inside of his structure, though, playing under control, there's a little Perion Winfrey there kind of now where he just kind of finds space and shoots upfield and looks to make plays. And he's really good at that. Like, you can see the raw skill set is there. But in terms of, bend, playing with leverage, using his arms more, and maybe staying home to defend against the run, there's a little bit left to be desired, I think, in his game that I think, a full season of year 3 from him we will see, and I think he will end up being a top 20, top 15 player in this draft class because of it. But, if he gets, it's just one of these guys, like if he comes in this year and he gets hurt again, I don't know that he goes day one because it's and the pedigree again will make him go high regardless, and he just hasn't produced yet. And I hate doing this in early videos because everyone's gonna be like, oh, this guy's like a really talented player, and he obviously is. But this is again like a make or break type player, and I do think his skill set allows him to be that he's an amazing athlete. There's a reason he was a top recruit in the country, and I would expect him to fully go out there and produce this year. But we need to see it. I think one hot take I will have on this guy is I think, and this is kind of a Jonathan Allen thing coming out as well, is I think you could see some edge snaps and versatility from him if he really starts playing well. Because I think he has the body type that he could do it. I think if he can learn to bend better, it's certainly there. He definitely knows how to lean on offensive linemen and use, some of his like power to leverage upfield. But again, it's we need to see more. And so far it's been great. An unfortunate injury last year. This guy's ceiling is really, really high, and I think he might have the chance to go ahead of Jalen Carter too if he really knocks it out of the park this year.
I agree.
But as of now, it's an unfortunate injury from last season, and there's a couple question marks. But this is one of those guys to watch going forwards on a Clemson team that is looking to bounce back. Yeah, him having a big season will be one of the keys to that for them.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that, where I was like, yeah, he's got the ceiling to like be DT1. Like, we think Jalen Carter is awesome because he's proven it and he's got the tools too. But like Brissy, like you mentioned, Nick, was the #1 recruit in the country coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some flashes. I agree with you though. He's got to be developed a little bit. And unfortunately, his injury kind of hampered that a little bit. So I have 3 D tackles in my top 15. My third one, or actually my number 2 D tackle I have is Jacqueline Roy from LSU, who I know Mike Renner loves from PFF. Not a lot of other people like him though. And I watched him because Mike loved him, and I love him as well. Like, I think he's super agile, super quick. He's got great hand usage. He's an awesome, awesome pass rusher at 6'4", 297. The only problem is that he's at 297 pounds, not the strongest guy, can get beaten by double teams, can get beaten even by a single block sometimes in the run game. So as a run defender, I want to see some big improvement there. But again, this is one of the best pass rushers in college football at D tackle for LSU in the SEC. And he's been really, really good. I just want to see him develop as a run defender. He's already done it before. He's a really bad run defender as a true freshman. This past year, he got better and was an okay run defender, still not great. I want to see him continue to get stronger like he has been before. But otherwise, this is a good enough pass rusher that I think he can be a top 10 pick maybe in the draft, which is crazy when you have 3 D tackles that could be top 10 picks. And I think Jacqueline Roy is definitely a name to watch out for.
Well, another name to watch out for, which I'm just going to say real quick, Siaki Ika from Baylor. Like, this is another guy. Like, I have 4 D tackles in my top 20. Like, this D tackle class is legit generational. Like, I just wanted to throw his name out there because I just watched him last night, and like, he's so good. He's a nose tackle, but he's so good.
Yeah, he's 350 pounds for Baylor. Yeah, and he can move too, which is exciting.
He's beat
All right, so let's go to this edge class, which I think is a really interesting edge class. There's a clear number 1, which we'll get into. After that, it's pretty wide open. But Nick, there's a guy from a school that we really hear that much in the NFL draft that you're starting to fall in love with.
Yeah, so there's this player from Army named Andre Carter, the second actually, who is going to weigh in on their side at 6'7" to 260, which is an awesome size. I'm going to list him at 6'6", 255. The way I like to put it for him, I think, is this is what people wanted Gregory Rousseau to be. He is long, athletic, explosive, so very clearly just the best player on their defense. And for me right now, if I were to take a bet on a guy that I don't know that people are as high on, I know there's some fans out there, I think Mike actually mocked him as high as top 15 at one point. I think this is a guy who can go top 10 in this draft. I think he has that ceiling.
From Army, wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love it.
And I think, dude, I mean, he had 15.5 sacks last year, and it's not like a flashy number that doesn't represent what he was. He was beating guys off the edge one-on-one and was the type of athlete you'd expect for someone to have that production be like a real NFL translation. Has the power speed combo. His use of length is impressive. Plays stand up mostly for a guy his size. Awesome to see that. Has kind of that versatile Karlaftis power forward type build that I think a lot of teams look for. But the thing that's amazing, I think, for him is he's awesome in space and has the body control of a linebacker. Like, they would put this guy into coverage And he was good. There are some plays on tape where he like runs down a tight end or a running back and like jumps up and tips the ball to a corner for an interception or just picks it off himself. It's freaky athleticism, and I think it might be a little underrated right now because I think when you watch his tape, he kind of runs a little funny. Like he's kind of one of those guys who really has to put his body into it, using every muscle he can to get upfield. But I think he strides like really well, and he moves just awesome in space. He's got great feet. He has a nice array for pass rush moves too for a guy his size with his athleticism. He's got a bull rush. He's got a straight arm, a swim. He can burst upfield. You see him sometimes win with speed. Navigates traffic well at all levels of the field. Like I talked about downfield. It's amazing how this guy can run under a ball that's thrown. And then not only that, but it has like the head and like body control, like turn and face when the ball is in the air and like defend it. Like that for a guy his size is just ridiculous. And I think that type of athletic skill set at edge where a guy is producing already, I think, quite frankly, this is the guy that like just because he's playing an Army, people haven't discovered yet. And I think when he goes out this year, and he ends up playing similarly. I think he'll start shooting up boards. You'll start hearing about this guy. Like my comparison for him would be not even because I think he's more developed, but like kind of like how Troy Anderson was at linebacker. Like I think he could play other positions if you wanted him to. He's that athletic, and I think he'll just be like a late riser because of that. His get off timing could use some work. Sometimes he jumps off sides and he shoots out of plays too much at times too because he just he's a one man wrecking crew. Like he's their whole defense. He's flying around trying to do what he can, so he takes himself out of plays. There are some times where he is so explosive off the jump that he just takes himself out of the play. I will say it's very important to go watch that Wake Forest game they played against Army. I don't know if people remember that track meet of a game they had. Sam Hartman was playing really well. The game was like 63-56. Like there was no defense in that game. But Andre Carter was making an impact, and he was forcing Wake Forest to change their game plan, a lot more RPOs, a lot of getting the ball out quick from Hartman. Hartman was sliding in the pocket away from him, and initially they had Carter opposite of Zach Tom, and he was like winning on every rep. They moved him over to go against Zach Tom one-on-one, and you saw him a lot just try to overpower him because I think he probably saw Zach Tom. He's like, oh, this is a small tackle. I could probably just power through him. Tom does a really good job of staying in front of him and kind of deals with him. Yeah. And then you kind of see like the gears are turning. Like Carter starts switching it up. He's like, all right, I got to use my arm moves. I got to swim. I got to rip. I got to use my speed. And as he started doing that, he started winning reps one-on-one against a player that Max had, in his top 50, I believe. Like that's a good player, Zach Tom. So that type of thing from a guy who has another year to play, I really think his ceiling is super high, and he's going to be edge 2 for me, I think, coming in here. I really was impressed by his tape. I'm a big fan of Andre Carter.
So my edge 2 actually for this draft, who I actually have as my number 7 overall player, is Myles Murphy from Clemson. Here's the thing about Myles Murphy. He had a really good jump from his freshman year to his sophomore year. Went from 20 pressures and 3 sacks to about 45 pressures and 9 sacks. Had a pretty good year. His PFF grades were obviously a lot higher. He played a lot more, obviously, because, sophomore to freshman. Yeah, you get that. But the thing that I like the most is that he did this majority by himself. Brian Breesy was not there basically the majority of the year. So, and I kind of forgot about that going into his tape. I kind of forgot about that. I kind of just forgot that Brian got hurt. So I was like, yeah, a lot of his pressures might be because of Brian, but no, Brian wasn't there for the majority of the time, and he really did take a big leap. So I think he can take possibly another one to become an even better edge rusher. Like, listen, he's not going to pass the number 1 guy, and Max will get to him eventually, but I think he can become the clear edge 2, maybe even a top 8, maybe a top 5 pick. I really do like Myles Murphy a lot. I think his ceiling is really high. He's a great athlete, has some good size to him, great tape, I'd argue. Like, it's just I want to see another big jump, and I think it will happen with Brian Breesy coming back from his ACL tear. So Myles Murphy, you can do it. Also, real quick, he had his best game of his last game of the last season against Iowa State, which I've always been a big fan of that. Like, I've always been a big fan of if your last game is your best game, especially in a bowl game, because, it's the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, come on, give me a break. It's the Cheez-It Bowl. But he went in there and showed out, had almost 10 pressures and had a sack against Brock Purdy. So I'm a big Myles Murphy guy. I think I can see this guy being about a top 5 pick, but unfortunately, he's not going to be the number 1 guy.
No, I have Myles Murphy edge 2, and that's because Will Anderson Jr. is edge 1. And honestly, if we all put positional value in our boards, who's probably not our number 1 overall player, I feel like, for any of us. But if positional value is taken out, he would be my number 1 overall player. He won the Nagurski Award last year as the best defensive player in college football. Will Anderson Jr. would have been, just a quick description, if you all you know about him, he would have been the first overall pick in 2021 because that's how good he was as a sophomore. Was he better than Aiden Hutchinson as a player last year? I don't think so, but Aiden Hutchinson was 2 years older than Will Anderson Jr., and Anderson has been dominating for 2 years now, whereas Hutchinson really had that one massive year that he had. Anderson has been incredible since he stepped on the campus. He had the most pressures in the country as a true freshman in the SEC. Then he came back. What did he do for an encore? He had the most pressures again as a true sophomore in the SEC. So this guy has had the most pressures in the nation back-to-back years in his first 2 years of college in the toughest conference in college football. He's only 20 years old right now. So he was 19 and 20 years old, terrorizing offensive linemen. But as good as he is as a pass rusher, I think he's even better as a run defender. He was such an impressive player as a run defender last year, and I think he might be the best, besides Myles Murphy. I think Myles Murphy might be the best run defending edge in the country, but Will Anderson Jr. is right behind him, man. He is incredible. He's explosive. He's got excellent hand usage, really good agility, flexibility around the edge. The negative, I will say, and people might hate me for this, is I think his stats were a little inflated last year. Like in terms of pass rushing stats especially, according to PFF, like close to half of his pressures were on times when the quarterback ran to his side of the field or Anderson was unblocked. And also Alabama ran stunts all the time last year too, which can inflate your numbers. So Anderson, was he still beating guys one-on-one? Yes, for sure. Is he still a really good pass rusher? Yes, for sure. But is he as dominant as his crazy stats make him seem? I don't think so. So I think he's a better run defender than pass rusher right now. Still an incredible pass rusher, though. My comparison is lofty, but it's Von Miller. I see a lot of the same flexibility, agility, size, too. Anderson's only 243 pounds. I kind of see him add on a little bit of weight because sometimes in the run game and in terms of getting off blocks in pass rushing situations, added strength can help him get off blocks easier when he is locked up. So Von Miller is my comp, but otherwise, man, he has the potential to join Myles Garrett and Chase Young as the best edge prospects we've seen in recent memory. Is he there with them right now? I don't think I would put him in that tier, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's up there.
I would put him in the Bosa range right now. That's
right now, yeah.
I think better than Joey and probably the same level as Nick. That's
yeah, and he has the potential
right now, and he has a whole another year to get in that range of Garrett and
I agree. Yeah, he's just not I don't think he's the physical freak that they were coming out, but like his production speaks for itself, man. And he's still like I said, 20 years old. Like this is a young player who's dominating the SEC. And like I said, he would have been the first overall pick last year, and he would have been my number one overall player if I didn't incorporate positional value. So Will Anderson Jr., as good as advertised. Stats are a little inflated, so be a little wary of that. But he is still an incredible player. He's my number 3 overall prospect right now. So let's go to this linebacker class, which again is a pretty interesting linebacker class. I think there's a pretty clear top 2, and then after that it gets a little weird. But Donnie, who's one of those guys you want to talk about?
So my current linebacker 2, Trenton Simpson, from brain fart, from Clemson. He is skinny. He is very, very skinny. It says he weighs 220, and I don't know if I believe that. To me, he looks like he's 210 or not. Yeah, about 210. Like I don't know. Like he has a weird build. His chest looks big, but his stomach looks like a pencil. Like I don't really understand. Like he has a huge chest, but his stomach and his legs, they just look skinny to me, along with his arms. But his on-the-field production is very, very good. He improved tremendously last year as a player, just in basically every possible way. The only thing I really noticed is that he has, like, 0 ball skill production. Like, he just has 0 ball production. He had 1 pass breakup his entire career and 0 interceptions. But it's not that he's bad in coverage. He allowed about an 82 passer rating when targeted, which is very, very solid as a linebacker. And he has a whole nother year to get better. But to me, I just didn't really see any great ball skills. But still a great player who also improved as a tackler a lot. Also a phenomenal pass rusher, by the way.
Yeah.
Had over 30 pressures, I believe, with only about 90 pass rush snaps, 7 sacks as well. So phenomenal pass rusher, improved as a tackler. Just the main question is just the size, man. And I know small linebackers can work in nowadays NFL, but to me, he looks smaller than Jock. Like I think Jock is probably bigger than him, and I think Jock is taller than him too. I think Jock is about 6'3", and Simpson's about 6'2", probably. So Jock's probably a little bit taller, but just add on maybe 10 pounds, and then I think from there he can be an easy first-round pick. But as of right now, I can't put him as my number one just because he is really skinny.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Back again with another Alabama linebacker that we just like. I don't know.
3 in a row. 3 in a row.
Dylan Moses 2 years ago. It was Christian Harris last year. Now it's Henry To'o. It's a hard one to say. Toa. One word, by the way, too, which is just I can't deal with it apparently. We'll get it right by the end of this year. He is trying to be Christian Harris, I think, on his development curve. I think that's what Alabama's going to try and turn him into. And we had mixed reviews on Christian Harris last year at the end towards the draft. So as well as with him having like a good year, in my opinion. So this has been a tough position to scout for Alabama in the past few years. They haven't really used linebackers in the more modern way. But in terms of the body and skill set of some of these guys, they kind of do fit the modern linebacker mold. And Toa is kind of in that mold in that he is 6'1", 223. Like he's skinny. He looks like a box safety. And he runs sideline to sideline. He makes plays outside of the tackles. Like that is his skill set. That's what he does. He chases down guys. He makes tackles at high speed. That's what he's best at. I'm interested to see where this guy ends up now because I think they'll move him more towards the middle, like they used Christian Harris last year. And if I'm gonna call him Henry, if Henry can play in the middle of the defense, I have a hard time pronouncing that last name. I don't know, it's my mouth, I can't do it. If he can be kind of the disruptive force in the middle of the defense that Christian Harris was, it'll change my view of how Henry fits into an NFL defense. But at this time, right now, I'm not certain what he is because I don't think he can just be this outside linebacker who can play sideline to sideline and just have that be his whole thing, is that he can make tackles outside the box. I don't really know how good of a box player he is yet. He has some pedigree. He's a like a high 4-star recruit from De La Salle High School, like near 5-star. He's about like a 97 or something like that. He transferred from Tennessee last year, got a year in the system already under his belt, didn't play poorly, but I think there was some to be desired out there still. I wonder how he might look in the slot if they want to try that, maybe kind of turn him into like a JoJo Doman type, see what he could be as a couple player there. That's another opportunity I think that he could have. But he just seems more like a safety to me right now, which is interesting because I don't really know. They have to change what he's going to be next year. I think he does cover best when he's standing in the middle of the defense playing zone, kind of what Christian Harris did last year, mostly in coverage. And then he did it better than Harris, but it's not like he was excellent. He was more of the every once in a while he would find the guy who was about to catch the ball, make the tackle. Very sure tackler. This guy is a very, very good tackler. He's not afraid of contact, throws his body around just with reckless abandon. This guy will give you all of that, as a linebacker. The NFL thing, like the football person thing, is I want linebackers who are going to run fast and just hit people. He definitely does that. Like he checks those two marks, so he's already there, right? But I think he'll add some weight. I don't know how good of an athlete he'll be once he adds some of that weight, and he needs some work in coverage. More pass rush snaps to see what he looks like as a pass rusher. Didn't do as much of that last year either. This is just a big question mark for me. Right now, if I'm looking at it, I'm kind of thinking like, all right, if he entered the draft now, it might be like like an early day 3, maybe 3rd round pick. He can certainly work his way up, but he is kind of going off a pedigree right now. And I think there is some things to be liked, but it's a building process for him at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys both have 2 linebackers. They're like 225 pounds for Simpson, 228 pounds for To'o. I can't. That's tough too. Noah Sewell, you're not going to be mistaking Noah Sewell for a safety. I'll tell you that much. In fact, you might be mistaking him for an edge defender because he is a massive linebacker at 6'3", 251 pounds from Oregon. Big boy. Yes, he's also the younger brother of Penei Sewell. Also a freak athlete like Penei Sewell. I think he's an excellent player as a blitzer, especially. I love, I have Noah Sewell at 26 right now on my board. And when I posted that, a lot of comments were upset with me saying this guy is a top 5 player. I'm not willing to go that far, but I am a big fan of Noah Sewell. And I think he's a really good linebacker. A lot of people think he's like next Micah Parsons in terms of pass rushing. I don't think he's there. I think he's more of like a pure blitzing linebacker, whereas Parsons, you could play him on the edge. I don't know if you want Noah Sewell to do that. I think you want him blitzing from, from his off-ball role. I think that's where you want him. And run defender, he's pretty decent. He's an okay tackler right now. I think he's better in coverage than people give him credit for. I think he's got really good instincts in zone coverage, especially. Do you want him manning up on tight ends or running backs? Probably not, because I don't think, like I said, he's a really good athlete. I don't think he's a freaky enough athlete to do that because he is 251 pounds. But I think he's really, really a smart football player. He made some really impressive plays in zone coverage. So man coverage, you want him manning up on guys? I don't think so. But in zone coverage, I think he is good enough. And I think, a lot of people are saying, oh, he can't play in coverage at all. I disagree with that. I think Noah Sewell can. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people give him credit for, but this guy is a first-round caliber player, and right now is my top linebacker in 2023. So let's go to this cornerback class. Really interesting cornerback class. And Donnie, who's your corner you want to talk about?
So my current CV1, but the gap is close. There's no guy, there's no Stingley, there's no JC Horn, Surtain, there's no guy who's just this top tier prospect. It's a lot of guys who we have a lot of questions about, but they're all still probably first round picks. My CV1 though is Kelly Ringo from Georgia. I've been a big fan of him ever since I saw his tape in that SEC championship game. Listen, he got toasted a couple times by Jameson Williams. I understand that, but he's not really the fastest guy compared to Jameson Williams. So I'm going to give him some slack there because I don't know what kind of person thought. Oh, gosh, I don't even want to get into it. That Georgia defense pisses me off. But Kelly Ringo was the best corner on that team last year. I can say that confidently. He was better than Deron Kendrick by a comfortable margin, and Deron Kendrick went in, the 5th round?
Something like that. Went higher than I thought he would. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he'd go undrafted, to be honest.
Yeah,
after that combine, but Kelly Ringo is a whole different player. He's actually good. Allowed, I believe, 40% of his receptions or targets to be caught, which is very, very good, especially in the SEC. But not a great PFF grade, and I kind of wondered why when looking at the numbers. And I kind of deep dove into the tape a little bit. He does get burned a good amount, but whenever he does make plays on the ball, it is very, very special. And also had the game-sealing pick 6, I believe, in the national championship, which also helps a lot. So that's pretty cool. But it's like I said, all these guys are really close to each other. I have another guy who we'll be talking about from Alabama, literally 2 spots away from him. Like, I think a lot of this cornerback class is interchangeable, but I do have a feeling that if I were to put my money on a guy who I think will separate themselves, I think it's Kelly Ringo, just for the fact that I don't really have as many questions with him as compared to other guys, so I'm a huge fan of Kelly Ringo. We'll see how he does this year now that he is the true CB1. No Deron Kendrick anymore to kind of help him out. No Lewis Steen to help him out at safety. Lock him down. Let's see if you can do it, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kelly Ringo. I think he's probably the toolsiest corner. He's 6'2", 205, and in high school he ran a verified 4.35. So he, not Jameson Williams.
I don't think he's that fast on tape. That's just me.
Fair. But in high school, he ran a 4.35 that was verified. So I was like, all right, this guy, I think he's definitely the toolsiest and got the highest ceiling out of all these corners in this class right now. But I agree with you, Donnie. He is a little raw on tape still.
So next up we're going to talk about is Cam Smith from South Carolina. First thing that I will come out and say about Cam Smith is that he is an undersized cornerback. I list him at 5'11", 180. I think he has the length necessary, but he is small. That being said, he very much plays well for his size up against even some of the bigger receivers. We saw him play a little bit against Justin Ross, and I thought he did a really good job there. To me, I haven't watched Keely Ringo a whole lot yet. I have watched Eli Ricks, and I do like Cam Smith's tape better than Eli Ricks to this point. And I think he might end up being my CB1. And once I watch Ringo, we got to see what happens. Because when I watch Cam Smith, this is a guy's tape. Andre Carter was a tape that I watched where I was like, this guy's just awesome. This tape just inspired me. I was motivated watching Cam Smith because this guy is just a spark plug. He is fun to watch. I know we don't love saying that, but it is some awe. He does a little bit of everything. You see the movement ability. He plays big, has length, ball skills, can rip past blockers and make tackles. He does every corner, it seems nowadays, that kind of non-wrap tackle, just launch your shoulder in a guy type thing that doesn't really work super well. But I will say he at least kind of has solid body control through it, so he does bring guys down most of the time when he does that. Plays with just awesome motor for a corner, right? This is the guy that will chase guys downfield and make plays across the field when the play is into his side. There's a play where DJ Uiagalelei runs about 20 yards downfield. Yeah, we're having trouble with names today. runs about 20 yards downfield, and Cam Smith, who is probably about 5 inches shorter and obviously like 50 pounds lighter, comes up and just rocks him, just knocks him right to the ground. Like, just awesome. Like, you love to see that from your corner. The way I describe this dude is like, if you put J.C. Horn and Asante Samuel Jr. together, this is what you get. It's this.
I love
He's
that.
a hybrid. I think he runs really well. I think his hip fluidity is some of the better hip fluidity I've seen from a corner come out the past 2 years. I think his footwork at times, he looks like he's off balance, but his hips are so flexible that he just always corrects and is able to get back on balance and stay up with the receiver. Vertically, he's impressive. He high points the ball, getting up in the air. I think his vertical jump is going to be awesome. Has an aggressive punch at the line of scrimmage. He's just a dog. This guy's
like, he's got that dog in him.
He is ready to go.
He's got that it factor.
Like, I love him. I love this guy so much. He really this is like, every once in a while you just see a dude who just does not care how big he is, who he's up against. Mentally, he's just on a different game compared to everybody else in the field. And he truly, you watch the tape and that he believes he can lock down anyone and do whatever he wants in the field. He probably believes he could line up one-on-one with like Skronsky, the Northwestern tackle, and beat him one-on-one as an edge rusher. And I'm just like so in for that. Like, this is the type of player you're getting. And I do think his speed, although he probably doesn't run like the low 4.3s, I think he could run like like a 4.38 type thing. I think that speed's there because you can see him make kind of catch-up plays downfield. He also plays from a lot of different alignments. They don't play as much zone in South Carolina as we saw with Horn, but he can play from off. He can play up in the guy's face, and I do think as a press corner he's good. This guy, I think, has been not talked about a whole lot yet, but I think he is very impressive, and he had a great, in terms of production, I think he had the best year of any of his corners last year. He was excellent.
TikTok loves him. TikTok loves this guy. Whenever I released my top 10 players in the class, I had at least 15-ish comments like, "Where is this guy? Where's this guy?" And I was like, "Okay, let me watch him." Good Lord.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Cam Smith a lot. So I love this because it's actually, I didn't know that Cam Smith was Nick's number one corner. I didn't know that Keely Ringo is Donnie's number one corner. So this really speaks to the cornerback class because we all have a different CB1 then. My CB1 is Eli Ricks, who is now at Alabama, transferred from LSU. And he's not the athlete Derek Stingley Jr. is, but I think the career arc that you've seen is really similar. Whereas true freshman Eli Ricks was like one of the best corners in college football, just like Derek Stingley Jr. was. Then as a sophomore, he suffered a shoulder injury. He played through it for a few games as a sophomore, or actually 6 games as a sophomore. And then, he didn't look as good, but he was playing through a shoulder injury. Then when LSU was falling apart, as you saw the whole Ed Orgeron thing and everything else, he shut it down. He's like, all right, I'm done. So he got shoulder surgery, transfers to Alabama. But you turn on that true freshman tape, man, it is really, really good. I think he is an incredible player in man coverage. Especially as a true freshman. He's got excellent length at 6'2". He bothers receivers in press coverage. Really physical at the line of scrimmage and at the catch point, but physical enough where he's not getting a lot of flags called on him too. So that's just something I really like to see in corners. And I think he's really good in a press coverage role, but he shows some really impressive instincts in zone coverage. The issue is, and it's not an issue for the two guys you talked about, Keely Ringo and Cam Smith, speed. Speed is going to be the big question mark with Eli Ricks because he's not a freaky athlete, which is why I don't think you can compare him to Derek Stingley Jr., even though their careers have been really similar. Doesn't really have the top-end juice that you look for. Probably runs in like the 4.5s. Like there are receivers that get behind him. Like I was watching I turned on the McNeese State game for LSU, and there were some McNeese State wide receivers that got behind Eli Ricks. So speed will be an issue. I think he'll probably run in the 4.5s, which isn't a huge deal because he is a bigger corner at 6'2", 205. But, when you look for a top 10 pick for a corner, you probably want better speed than what Eli Ricks has right now. And obviously, he wasn't as good as a sophomore. But then again, I think a lot of that can be attributed to his shoulder injury and the dumpster fire that was LSU. This is going to be a guy now, unfortunately for him, and maybe Derek Stingley Jr. should have saw the writing on the wall. Stingley should have transferred to somewhere like Alabama. Ricks saw the writing on the wall. And instead of saying, hey, instead of me being like Derek Stingley Jr., where the whole scouting report, even after his junior year, is saying, just watch the freshman year, Ricks now goes to Alabama. They produce defensive backs all the time. I'm excited to see him in that Patrick Surtain role in that defensive backs, where you have a safety that we're going to talk about in just a second. Malachi Moore, I'm a big fan of as well. Will Anderson, obviously, at the top. Henry Toronto. Like, this is a very good defense. Probably the best secondary in the country. I'm excited for Eli Ricks next year. My comparison was J.C. Jackson, another bigger corner. J.C. ran like a 4.5 at the combine, too. Slower, so not fast at all. But he's one of the best man corners in the NFL. And I think that's what Eli Ricks is right now. So otherwise, he's not the freakiest athlete, but he's no one in the country right now more locked down in man coverage. Now I'm excited to see what he looks like in Alabama. So let's go to this safety class now. Speaking of that Alabama guy, Nick, who's your guy you loved in 2022, and now he's in 2023.
We're back with it. By the way, Stingley still went number 3 overall.
The Dallas Cowboys
I know.
will continue.
The
They
Dallas
will
Cowboys
continue.
getting mock Jordan battle is going to continue being a thing. This is tough because really not much has changed. Like, he had a good year last year, just came back, and he's here again. Jordan Battle, going to be probably a top 20, 25 player for me still in this draft. He'll have a chance to move up the board more. This is your, at this point, like Minka Fitzpatrick, because he's just been here forever. And it's like, how is that guy still in school? Because he's just so good. And it's going to be a difference maker for them defensively. I had him listed 2 years ago. This guy had 300 plus snaps at free safety, 200 box snaps, and 100 in the slot. So he can play everywhere, right? Like, the versatility's there. He made a jump year 2 to being successful all-around player, he became better in coverage. I think last year you saw that continue. He was a playmaker. He's a guy who scored touchdowns in multiple games because he got his hands on the ball. He had the game against Georgia, the SEC championship game. He dropped like a sure pick 6, and then came back and just got another one later in the game, anyways. Because that's how Alabama safeties who develop are. They're playmakers. That's the type of guys that Nick Saban has developed over the years. He's got great coverage instincts. He really sees routes well and commits to them. He's patient. Like, you'll see one cross coming, he'll know that his job isn't to get the first crosser. He'll be looking for the guy who's coming across. We used to call that laser in high school. If there's a one crossing route, you always want to look for the other one coming the other way. You got to stay home and be ready for it. He's able to do that really well. Super patient, has great processing ability in coverage. But he's physical. He's big. Like, he can get downfield and hit people. He was listed at 6'1", 210 going into last year. I haven't updated that. I need to look at that. But this is a guy that, although I don't think he plays as physical as a Jaquan Brisker did last year, he has the size and the athleticism that he'll be able to play downhill and hit people. I think downfield in coverage, he's not as good. His ball skills are like iffy, I think, when the ball is in the air. But his skill set as a coverage player is kind of like a really good linebacker, and that he can cover over the middle of the field. He'll give you that rover play. He'll be able to cover out of the slot. He can match up with running backs. He can match up with tight ends. And he has the athleticism, I think, now that you will see him do that against like the Travis Kelce's of the world at the next level. But the size makes it intriguing to see what more that he could be if he continues to develop. But technically, like, this guy is great. Like, he is ready to play in the NFL now. I'm a little shocked he went back to school. He would have been ready this year. I think he would have been a first-round pick this year, although it was a really good safety class. We had 3 go this year. We talked about, will even 1 go because the NFL is so low on safeties, and 3 ended up going in the first round this year. He almost certainly has a pedigree to be on teams' boards as a first round pick already, and only has the ability to go higher, I think.
Yeah.
He wants to win a natty. That's why he went back, which I respected. I respect it. Like, if you want to go win a natty with Alabama, go on ahead. The guy I'm going to be talking about, another guy who could have went to the draft, but unlike Jordan Battle, it's a good thing he didn't. It's a good thing he has returned to school. Brandon Joseph, the safety from Northwestern. In 2020, this guy was viewed as like a top-tier safety prospect.
Someone had him as the number 1 overall player. I forget who it was.
Yeah. Like, he was in
last year.
The Draft Network, I think, right? Didn't they have him number 1?
I think it might have been the Draft Network had him number 1 overall last year. Yeah.
Like, he was just viewed as this top-tier safety prospect because in 2020, he was phenomenal. Like, the top 2 safety prospects going into last year were Kyle Hamilton and Brandon Joseph. What happened? He regressed in his last year in Northwestern, and it's not like he got hurt and he was playing through injury. Like, no, he was healthy and he just regressed. So what does he do? He leaves Northwestern and he's going to Notre Dame, and maybe he wants to be the next Kyle Hamilton. Go on ahead, man. Like, go ahead and try. But that's his plan, I guess. Like, it's a good thing to return to school because if he can get back to that 2020 Brandon Joseph, he could be and very well could be even ahead of Jordan Battle, safety 1 in this draft, because that version of him was very, very good. He was arguably maybe the best safety in the country in 2020, I would argue. Like, he was fantastic. So that's just it. Get back to his main form, and if he can't, then just he's going to be a later round pick, but I feel like no matter what, he will get drafted because that 2020 tape is very special. But he transferred to Notre Dame, so maybe it will be a lot easier over there because it's not as much of a dumpster fire as it is at Northwestern. So good luck, Brandon Joseph. I believe in you. Get back to that 2020 form because I loved it. I loved his 2020 tape. Like, that's when I first went back and I started watching him, that was the first thing I watched. And then 2021, it's just he just forgot. Like, I don't understand. But hopefully he can get back to that 2021.
I'm excited for him with Marcus Freeman too. And like, you mentioned that 2020 tape. Like, he had 6 interceptions in 8 games in 2020. Like, he was a ball hawk.
Him and Greg Newsome were so good.
No, I think he led the nation in. I could be wrong, but I think he led the nation in picks that year, and he had 3 picks last year in 12 games. So not as efficient, but he was an incredible ball hawk in 2020. And I agree, he definitely regressed a lot. So, but I'm excited to see him now with Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, and I'm excited to see how they use him. So, my guy who I have as a top 10 overall prospect right now, my safety 1, is different. So I like this again. This is kind of like the cornerbacks. We're all different. Jordan Battle, I think, is probably the best box safety. Brandon Joseph, I would say, probably is the best free safety. Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M is right now a slot corner, and that's basically all he's been during his career at Texas A&M. But the thing is, like, he's 6'3", 200 pounds, which is way bigger than you see for most slot corners. He was still the best slot corner in the country. He's actually PFF's highest graded slot corner. So for me, when you're saying, hey, this guy is way bigger, probably playing out of position right now, but he's still the best in the country at that, that's really impressive to me. I think he's a really smart player, great acceleration, great feet, great hips. He's able to diagnose routes, explode towards the ball. He's physical. He's really, really physical. Excellent run defender. He has some huge hits on tape. Really good tackler, too. The issue is he's not really a ball hawk right now. He's got only 6 career pass breakups, 1 interception, too. And he's played like almost 80% of his snaps that come at slot corner. So I think he's better at safety, but we just haven't seen it yet. But Jimbo Fisher in preseason press conferences come out and said, we're going to play Antonio Johnson all over the field, which is where I think he should be at the next level. Play him in the box, play him at safety, play him at slot corners. He's really proven to be excellent at that. I'm a huge fan of Antonio Johnson's game. My comparison for him was Jeremy Chin, who's like a bigger safety. They play him in the slot in Carolina. He's 6'2", 211. But he's better, I think, when you want him to play near the line of scrimmage, downhill, and play physical. And like I said, Johnson being elite at a position that it probably isn't best suited for him says a lot, I think, at the next level. And I think Antonio Johnson is going to be a really good prospect. And I think he's that defensive weapon that coordinators will fall in love with, a lot like Kyle Hamilton last year, too, where it's like you can play him anywhere. And Derwin James, too. Like, I think he's in that kind of mold. He's only scratching the surface of his potential right now. So Antonio Johnson is a top 10 prospect right now for me. I'm a huge, huge fan of his game.
And real quick, I just want to say this. Slot corners, I have a feeling, I was talking to a friend about it, slot corners in about 2 or 3 years from now are going to be way more valuable than people think. Like with the emergence of Cooper Kupp, you have guys like Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, and then you have some rookies who are bound for breakout years who play in the slot, that being Elijah Moore and Nick's favorite player ever, Rondo Moore. Those are some guys who play in the slot who could become great in the NFL and could become very, very good in the NFL. So you're going to need a lot more slot corners. That's why, like, for example, I'm a Cardinals fan, and I want Byron Murphy to be a Cardinal for a long time because he's not a great corner, but he's one of the best slot corners in the league. And having a great slot corner can really help a lot. So
it's important. It's definitely
very,
important.
very important, especially when you're in a division like the Cardinals with Cooper Kupp, with Deebo Samuel. So having a slot corner in the NFL in about 2 years from now is going to be very important, I think.
People didn't think it was that important because, you have your base 4-3, 3-4 defenses. Well, base defense now is having 5 DBs on the field all the time, basically. So your slot corners are extremely important. I agree with you, Donnie. And I think Antonio Johnson right now might be the best one, even though I don't even think he's a slot corner at the next level. I think he's just a weapon that Texas A&M is kind of pigeonholing.
No, I agree with you, but I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't become that defensive weepon that we think he can be, and he's just a slot corner, that's cool. Like, I'm fine with that. He can still be a first round pick because of it.
Absolutely, 1,000%. I think it would be an elite prospect too, a slot corner. But that's what we got for our defensive prospects. So we're gonna be doing some different videos after this. So maybe some more NFL-centric videos. Like, there's a lot of really fun ideas. So make sure you subscribe for that and a lot more. So we've got a lot coming up soon. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram at Boomer Buzz Draft. So that's what we got for our 2023 NFL draft list for the defensive side of the ball. So for Nick Merriam and Donny Clemons, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.